All right. Hi, good morning, everybody. Happy, what is today? Tuesday, September 14th. We are halfway through September. It's practically time to trick or treat, right? If only that were true. But good morning, everybody, and welcome. We're here for our abnormal psychology class. I see some of you putting your names in the chat, which is fantastic. Perfect. Can you all hear me and see me? Okay, before I keep going, let me know if you can hear and see me just fine, and then we can get going on our stuff for today. Perfect. Thank you, Susan. Thank you for letting me know. So our plan for today, I'll give you a little bit of feedback about last week. So we'll talk a little bit about the discussion and the first part of the paper that was due. And then we'll talk about the reminders for this week and kind of paying close attention to our first exam that we have this week. So I'll talk a little bit about how to prepare for that and how to study for the exam and some tips and so on. And then I'll give you the Twitch extra credit question and we will call it a day. But hopefully everyone had a nice weekend, a fun weekend of football. Brady and the Bucks pulled off a win on Thursday, so I was very excited for that. But let's go ahead and head over together to Canvas and get going, since we have a little bit of extra stuff to talk about today. I always want to be mindful of your time. So if we're on Canvas, again, we are in week number 5 this week. So week 5, which is right here. But let's take a quick look at week number 4 before we move forward. And last week we finally got to the disorders, right? We started talking about anxiety disorders. And your discussion for last week was very much based around the idea of fears and phobias. And a lot of you did a wonderful job describing the difference between a fear and a phobia, some great examples with that. And then talking about phobias that either you yourself have or people that you know. And there were a lot of different phobias that people described, and a lot of ones that I'd never even heard of before, which is great. There's, of course, a name for every single phobia, right? But a lot of very nicely done jobs on going over the different phobias, how you would treat them. A lot of you talked about flooding or systematic desensitization, but of course you could also look at the roots of the fear. You could talk about the kind of poor assumptions that maybe you have around whatever item it is that you have a phobia of. But the two most conventional treatments would be either flooding or systematic desensitization. I also really enjoyed all of your superstitions that you shared. So many superstitious beliefs. And again, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, very rooted in superstitious thinking. So I enjoyed all of your comments on different superstitions that you either have yourself or that you've heard of. So overall, really nicely done. The vast majority of you got full points on the discussion. If you didn't, some people still not responding to a peer, so remember to respond to your classmate. And then the other thing is just giving me enough information. So make sure that you're always answering the questions fully and giving me all of those details to make sure that you're showing off your knowledge and understanding of the materials that we have covered. So that was due last week. The only other thing that we had last week that was different is you did have that first part of your paper. And really fun, a lot of different choices. The characters are all over the place, from TV shows. I think there are 2 of you that I wrote down that are doing a video game, but TV shows and movies, a lot of older movies, right? I think as maybe some of us are still not going to the theater, and there haven't been quite as many new movies released. A lot of you were doing older movies, which is kind of fun as well. So the first part of the paper was worth 10 points. If you gave me a description and your character and the citation information, you got 10 out of 10. A few people forgot to give me the citation information for their show. And again, it didn't have to be in any particular order, but some of you did forget to do that. So make sure that you find that information so you at least have it moving forward. But overall, really nicely done. Our next part of the paper isn't due for a little while, and we will do some other stuff in between. We'll look at some topics related to APA formatting and how to find a source. Lots of different things to help you build up to that second part of the paper. Somebody said, good morning. I accidentally missed the deadline for turning in the first part of the paper, which is my fault. But can I still turn it into you for feedback? I know I probably won't get any points, but I'd like to email it to you. So as far as the papers go, the 3 different papers, you can actually turn those into me late. So what you can do is you can email that to me today, and it will be 20% off because it's 2 days late. So you could still get 8 out of 10 points on that. You can't turn in the discussions or the exams late, but the papers I will accept for 10% off per day. So yes, please go ahead and email that to me. And by emailing it to me, I will grade it, give you feedback, and then you can also still get those points. Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for asking. All right, are there any other questions at all about last week before we move on to this week? We're again in week number 5. I want to talk a bit about the exam and stuff today. But are there any other questions from last week before we move forward? I missed my coffee today. I haven't had my breakfast yet either. It's been a very sad morning. I have to fast for some blood work. And since we had class, I have to do it after my 2 classes. So I don't get to eat till 11. I'm very sad, so I have my water. I'm like, I miss my pumpkin coffee cup. I have to drink double coffee after I do my blood work in a couple of hours. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to keep moving. Of course, if you have one, feel free to put it in the chat. But this week we are looking at anxiety. I'm sorry, last week was anxiety disorders. This week we're looking at disorders of stress and trauma. Service is currently unavailable. Okay, well, I wonder if that is a Canvas issue. We'll find out. But for this week, you're looking at stress and trauma related disorders. So the first part of the chapter is all about looking at how stress affects the body, disorders such as PTSD and acute stress disorder. And then the second part of the chapter gets into some of the more rare disorders, but they're really interesting, things like dissociative identity disorder, the different dissociative amnesias. So make sure that you're watching the lecture video that I have posted for you here on that topic. Again, you could take notes, or you could just know that it's there for you if you wanted to watch it again. But here it is here with the captions here on the side, and it's about 36 minutes long. Again, me lecturing on the slides and then giving you some video examples and so on. So make sure you watch the lecture video. I also have one other thing that is posted on here for you that I want you to watch, and it's going to kind of be brought in a little bit in the discussion and so on for this week. And that is this mindfulness training that the Health Center presented for me last semester. And so what I wanted to have you do is watch this and then look at some of the mindfulness practice activities. And I have to share with you that years ago, when mindfulness started to become very popular, I kind of had that like, be mindful. It just seems like such a like, oh yeah, okay, it's a good idea, but it doesn't seem that important. And there's so much research now to indicate how important mindfulness actually is. And being mindful and present and aware of the things going on in your mind and your body. And so the Health Center recorded this video for me of some great little activities and some information about mindfulness training. And then there's a handout here with some different practice activities that you can take a look at. And why didn't it open up for me here? Oh, it downloaded. And so what you can do is look at these different mindfulness activities that come up and look at some of them, and you're going to be doing that for the discussion this week. So make sure you watch this video in addition to the lecture video that is posted for you. So 2 videos for you this week, Chapter 5 lecture, and then the mindfulness training. And then when you get to the discussion for this week, you're going to be bringing all that information back, right? So you're going to take a little stress test to look at and think about all the stress and stressors that are going on in your life. And that's linked right here. You'll share your reactions about your score, thinking about and sharing how you cope with your stress. What are some of the things that you do, both positive and negative? And then you complete one of the mindfulness activities in the document here or in the one on the previous page. It should take you about 5 minutes or so to complete. And you're welcome to do more than one, but do a minimum of one of the mindfulness activities. And then you're going to describe which one did you do, how did it go for you, was it difficult, easy, what are your reactions, and so on. So you'll be playing around a little bit with that mindfulness that you're watching the video on, along with thinking about your stress and how you cope and react and deal with the stress in your life. And this has definitely been a stressful year and a half, almost, we're going on 2 years at this point. So, don't feel bad if your score is high. You're just going to reflect on it and think about it a little bit. So you'll do all of that, and then don't forget to reply to one of your classmates as well to get those 2 points for the peer response. So those are our elements like normal this week, right? You have the lecture video, the mindfulness training, the discussion, and then we do have one new element this week, and that is exam number 1. So I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the test and just some kind of general tips and pieces of information. So when you're ready, you'll click on exam number 1 right here, and it will take you directly to the instruction page. Don't hit take the quiz until you're ready, but you have one attempt to complete the exam. So make sure that you're organized and ready to go before you begin. You have everything you need in front of you. You have good internet, as quiet of a space as possible. Once you hit take the quiz, you have 75 minutes to complete the test. Now, this is plenty of time. This is a very similar test to the ones I would give in person. And it's plenty of time as long as you are organized and prepared and ready to go. I will share with you that on average, most people take about 60 minutes to take the test. So you have 75, but make sure that you're watching the clock, you're pacing yourself, and be aware of the time. Canvas will stop you when your time runs out. So just make sure that you're watching the little clock that's provided. As I said, you only get one attempt. You can use your notes, you can use your book, you can use the internet, you can use anything at your disposal when you're taking the test. But I promise you, and this is intentional, if you're trying to look up every answer, you're not going to have enough time. So it's really, really important that you are studying and preparing like you would for a traditional in-person test, and then have your notes and your book and all of that stuff there for you as a resource if you should need it, or maybe just to double check. And I'll talk a little bit more about what I would do to prepare for this, and I'll talk about the study guide in a moment. But you'll notice there are 82 questions on the exam. Now, some of these are true-false, which should be very, very quick. But if you're trying to understand the question, understand the term, look it up, and find the answer, you're not going to have enough time. And again, that is a little bit purposeful. I do want you to prepare and to study. So make sure that you're organized and you've reviewed everything, and you know all those terms before we begin. As I said, Canvas will stop your test at the time, so make sure you're watching that. And you'll hit submit quiz as soon as you're ready, and it will give you a score except for the short answer questions. So there are a handful of short answer questions on the test, which I have to go back and grade later. So it'll give you a score for all the true, false, and multiple choice. And then throughout the week, I'll be grading those short answer ones, and those will add those points to your score. So a couple of general things. The exam is mainly multiple choice. So most of the questions are multiple choice. There are a handful of true, false, and then there are a handful of short answer. Now, the short answers will never be essays. They're always going to be stuff like list the 5 Ds of abnormality, or what are the 3 whatevers. They're typically lists, or maybe comparing 2 things in a chart, but they're never going to be essays. You don't have to write a whole lot for these, but they definitely are a slightly different way of preparing. There are no trick questions ever on an exam, so if it doesn't make sense, try and read it again. I did write every single question on here, so they're not random or from like a test bank. They're things that I wrote. So make sure that you are reading them again. If it's unclear, you should let me know, because that's completely unintentional. Trick questions do nothing but cause anxiety, so I will never trick you. I want you all to do well, but it's definitely important that you're studying and preparing if you want to make sure that you do well on these exams. So those are most of the things I can think of that are kind of general stuff, and then I'm going to talk more about the content here in a second. But the only other thing that I would really stress to you is please try not to wait until Sunday night to take the test. Inevitably, if you wait till Sunday evening, the power will go out, the internet will crash, you'll have an emergency that will come up, and I will feel awful for you when you email me on Monday and tell me those things. But once the deadline is passed, it's too late. If you have an issue taking the exam and you take it Saturday or even Sunday morning and you email me, we have time to address it and fix it. If you email me after 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night, it will be too late. So just make sure that you're taking it early enough that you can counter for any possible issues, like the internet or the power or whatever. As we get into next month, we always get wind and power outages. So just make sure that you're being mindful and trying to take it a little bit earlier in the week, if possible. If you go back to the previous page, I've given you a study guide for every single exam. So what I do is the exams are mainly based on the lectures and the textbook. And so when you are studying, those are the two resources that you're going to want to use: the lecture, the textbook, and then also any videos that I have in here, like the mindfulness training and so on. So once I've made the exam, I then go through and make a study guide. And on the study guide, I put every term or concept from the exam that I want you to know. So if it's on the study guide, it will be on the test. If it's not on the study guide, you don't need to worry about it and you don't need to study it. So anything on the study guide is fair game for the exam. And you'll see this exam is on chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So everything through this week. So if there's a term on the study guide, make sure that you know it, you're familiar with it. You could answer questions related to it, mainly multiple choice, but still. And if it were me, and I've always been a really good student, I was a 4.0 student all the way through college and graduate school, so I over-prepare for everything. So if it were me, what I would do is I would go through and I would write out or type out every term on this study guide. And I might have it in front of me, either handwritten or typed, or you could use something like Quizlet, which is a wonderful free app that you can use for reviewing. But if you had everything on here written out and organized in front of you, and you don't know the answer to something on the exam, then you know that you have that term right there in front of you to reference. You don't have to search through the book or search through lectures and try and find it. So that's what I would do if it were me, especially for the first exam when you aren't sure what to expect yet. So over preparing for the first test is a good kind of strategy to have. And then if you find that you did too much, you can dial it back next time. But it's never a fun feeling to under-prepare. So, and get to the exam and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it would be way better if you wrote or typed out all of these things, have them in front of you, review them, make sure they make sense and you understand them. And then when you go to take the exam, you'll be in wonderful shape and you can reference your study guide if you do find that you need a little bit of extra help. But again, the exams are very straightforward. They're very clear, in my opinion. If you've been doing the reading and watching the lectures and following along, you should do wonderfully. Most people do quite well on the exams. Again, I want you to do well, so I will never trick you. And as long as you know everything on here, you should be in really good shape. And again, most of this stuff is from the lectures. And then if you don't recognize it from the lecture, that means it's in the textbook. So really important to be reading that book and using the book as a resource as well. So what I would do, again, if it were me, is I would take several days during the week to prepare and get organized and write out these terms. And then when you're ready and you feel like you have everything kind of squared away, then you'll click on exam number 1 and you can go ahead and take the test. And as I mentioned, it will give you a score right away, except for the short answer questions, which I will be grading throughout the week. So I think those are all the key things about the exam. Are there any questions about the test, about the format, about any of the terms on the study guide? Any general questions at all that I can answer for you while we are together? I'll wait just a minute just to make sure. While I'm waiting for you to see if you have any questions, just a couple of reminders really quickly. And then, of course, I have the Twitch extra credit question to give you in a minute. A lot of you, we are in week number 5. So a lot of you have fallen off as far as the subscription status. So if you notice that you no longer have the football cake or the icon next to your name, please take a couple of minutes to go back and renew that for free. Don't pay for it ever, but please do that. It makes my life so much easier, and then it gets rid of all those ads. So if you could take a minute to do that, that would be wonderful. Just check that every week, but because we're in week 5, several of you did fall off. So that might be something to check this week. Is there a time limit? Yes, so 75 minutes. Remember, it says that right here when you go to start the exam. So if you click on exam number 1, it'll say up here 75 minutes, and there is a little clock that pops up for you when you start the exam. And so that will remind you of your time. And you can't pause it once you start. You have to keep going and finish. So just make sure that you are being mindful of the time as you go through. Okay. So I put the reminder about the subscribing in there. Somebody asked me if I could show you. So let me go to Twitch really quick and see if I can show you how to do that. So again, I can't show you on my channel, but I'm going to go to my buddy Sticker G, my best friends. Love my buddies. And so remember, once you have lost that subscription status, you go right here to where it says resubscribe, and you click that little down arrow. And then way down here at the bottom, right, again, they hide it from you. I think they don't want everyone to use it. You can click right here where it says resubscribe for free. I'm subscribed to them through the 24th. So I subscribe to them for free every month to support them. So if you can just try and do that, that would be really helpful. And again, it makes it where you don't have to put your name in the chat as well, because I do have the ability to track you. So just make sure that you check that out. The other thing to remember is our next Twitch stream will be next week on Tuesday. What is next Tuesday? Let's find out here. Tuesday the 21st, 9/21 at 8:30 in the morning. So next Tuesday morning at 8:30, we will have our week number 6 stream. But make sure you get going on everything for this week. Obviously, do your preparing for the exam and work on that. And then you're also going to want to watch the lecture video and the mindfulness video and so on. Let me also give you the Twitch extra credit question for this week so that you can get those 2 points. A lot of you are doing this, which is fantastic. Those 2 points are going to add up, and they're going to give you a little bit of a buffer on exams, on discussions. If you were to miss a discussion, you do a handful of these extra credits, and that would help make up for it. How is it already the 21st? I know, right? How is it already the 14th? I need to decorate my yard outside for Halloween. I haven't done that yet. I feel behind. Our house has been decorated forever, but I haven't done outside yet. I'm definitely ready to do that next week, or maybe this week on Thursday, since we have Thursday off. But here's the extra credit question. So this is related to the content for this week. What are the 2 systems that the hypothalamus activates in the stress response? So our hypothalamus kicks 2 different systems into gear. What are those 2 systems? You can find this in the lecture video and also in the textbook. But when you're ready to answer that, what are the 2 systems that the hypothalamus activates in the stress response? You will go back to Canvas, go to our week number 5 folder here, and then click on Twitch extra credit number 5. And then up here at the top, click Start Assignment. And then you can type your response down here in the box. And when you're ready, you'll hit Submit, get your little confetti burst. Woohoo! And then that's due, of course, by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So our usual format for the week, right? Read the chapter in the book, watch the video, complete the discussion, and then of course we have that one extra element this week of exam number 1. It is worth 100 points, so please do study and prepare. If you study the study guide, you should be in wonderful shape. Anything on there, make sure you know it And if you can understand and know everything on there, you should do wonderfully on the test. I'd be so happy if every single one of you got an A. So please do prepare and study, and you'll be in wonderful shape. And hopefully you will feel very good going into the test, and your grade will pop up for you instantly, except for the short answer, which I will grade later in the week. I think that is everything. Are there any general comments, thoughts, questions, anything at all that I can answer for you while we're here together? I will obviously hang out for a little bit if you have any questions on things related to the class, the paper, the exam, the study guide. I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, have a wonderful week. Good luck on the exam. It's supposed to get a little cooler, which is nice. I'm looking forward to that. Mid-80s is way better than mid-90s. I'll take it. I'll take it. And only 2 more hours till I can go get my blood work done and then eat something. I'm excited. Food is my life, right? That's my whole world right there. Is the first part of the paper supposed to be double-spaced? Yeah, you should make everything double-spaced. Double-spaced is the traditional APA-style formatting. It doesn't matter too much for this first part. I won't take off points for formatting. But when you get to the second and third parts of the paper, it should definitely be double-spaced. So might as well make it that way and get in that habit. Okay. Anything else? And yes, please remember that if you didn't turn in that first part of the paper, I know it's only worth 10 points, but you want to get all your points so that you do well in the class. You can still email that to me anytime. It is 10% each day, so the sooner the better, but you can still get those points. So go ahead and email that to me as soon as possible to get those points for that first paper assignment. Okay. So I'm going to minimize my video, but I will hang out for a little bit here if you do have any other questions. The citation requirements were just that you put the citation, the source information on there. So it doesn't need to be in any particular format. I just want you to have it on there. So what is the name of your show? When was it produced? Who directed it? You know, all of the just general citation information that you'll need later. So there's no APA requirement at all for this first part. I just want to make sure it's there because you will need it for the second and third parts of your paper. So just as long as you have the citation information there, any format is completely fine. Of course, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. And again, I hope you all have a really nice week. I'm going to hang out for a little bit if you do think of anything else related to the paper or the exam or anything else. But have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week. And I will see you all next Tuesday morning, bright and early, unless you have any questions, in which case I'm still here. You too. Thank you. You as well. Have a great week, a great day. Can you hear my old dog clickety-clacketing on our floor? She walks out of the room. Okay, you could hear it. Yep, that's my old dog Bailey walking outside. All right, everyone. If you think of anything between now and the end of the week, of course, feel free to email me. Otherwise, have a wonderful week, and I will see you all next Tuesday morning.